Hello and welcome to the Scatterable channel, and today we're going to be building the best $600 gaming PC in 2023. How do I know it's the best? Well, we've got one of the best price to performing processors, one of the best price to performing graphics cards, and some of the best budget motherboards, SSD, power supply, and other things going into this $600 PC build on top of a brand new case that just released, 60 bucks from Cooler Master. This should be very much a bargain value PC build. That doesn't mean it's going to be slow though, because this can do 1440p gaming, as I'll show you in the benchmark section of this video, not just in your favorite PC games, but even in some recently released ones. So in today's build guide, I'll show you how to put together this step by step, how to install Windows, graphics card drivers, its 1440p gaming performance, and then my final thoughts on this $600 PC build. And so I can make more of these PC build videos, since you guys enjoy them and I like to help out people build their first gaming PCs if they're a newbie, please give this video a like. The more likes I get, the more I can do these videos. It's as simple as that. So to build this computer, you're gonna need a banana and an 8GB or bigger flash drive, which is going to store your Windows bootable media device, which will eventually let you install Windows on this computer once you're finished building it. I have a tutorial linked in the description below and as a card on screen to show you how to make one of these for free. So for the processor, we're going with the Intel Core i3-12100F. Even though this is a 4-core CPU, it's still got plenty of power in 2023 because its single-threaded performance is still quite strong for a CPU, which is ultimately what you need for better gaming performance. If you don't believe me, check out any benchmarks between this CPU and anything Ryzen put out that's like more cores from a previous generation. You'll see that cores don't mean everything when it comes to a gaming CPU. And better yet, the motherboard we're putting that on is the ASRock B660M Pro RS, which I'm actually really excited to use. Which, from this humble jumble of packages and stuff, this is our IO shield. We do need this. Here is your motherboard manual. This will show you anything you need to know on how to install what or where to put what on this motherboard. SATA cables, don't need that. And then here is the actual motherboard. Now, you don't have to get this exact B660 motherboard in order to make this build work. You can use any B660 or B760 micro ATX motherboard, but the reason why I like this one is that it features onboard USB-C, which we will need for the PC case we're eventually going to use in this build guide. So as long as you choose a motherboard that is micro ATX and has onboard USB-C, you're good to go on this build. So go ahead and unbox your CPU. Should be right here. And by the way, if you're wondering, your CPU cooler you are welcome to use for this build already comes in the box, already comes with thermal paste, no need to get your own. Go ahead and take this out. Then to install the CPU into the socket, go ahead and locate the triangle on the bottom left of the CPU. You should see it on the actual IHS right here, and locate the triangle on the bottom left of the CPU socket. You're essentially going to want to line the two right up together. So open this latch up, open the bracket, take this CPU, drop it in, give it a little jiggle, make sure it's all the way in there, then put back on the bracket, bring down the lever, hook it back up, and bam. Now take your CPU cooler and you're going to line up it with these 4 holes right here on the motherboard. Doesn't matter which way you put it in. Once you have it lined up, go ahead and press in one side. You want to hear a tiny little click, go to the other side, make sure you hear a click, other side. And then here with your CPU cooler cable, you're going to want to plug it in to where it says CPU fan here on the motherboard. So we'll go ahead and put this in. It'll only go in one way, and that is easy peasy. So for the memory and storage and even Wi-Fi, which is optional in this build, for at least the RAM, we're going to go with 16GB of DDR4 RAM running at 3600 megahertz with a CAS latency of 18. Now, unfortunately, I couldn't afford DDR5 RAM in this build. I think that was just going to be a little too costly, even with the DDR5 motherboard. But if you could spend any extra additional money on this computer, I'd look into getting a DDR5 motherboard with DDR5 RAM. So if you want to do that, just copy what I did for my $700 PC build guide, which I'll link in the description and as a card on screen if you want to just reuse that motherboard and that RAM as an extra $50 of, say, upgrades. And the installation process into the PC case and all that is no different than what we're gonna do here. Then for our M.2 SSD, and I'm a big fan of this one, we have the T-Force Cardera Zero Z440. And I believe this is the one M.2 SSD on the market that is PCI Gen 4.0 and offers up to 5,000 megabytes a second of read and write speed for about $46 at 1 terabyte of storage. That is a lot of good value in an SSD of this price. And I just want to make a quick note on this, but with this ASRock motherboard, we do have access to an M.2 Wi-Fi slot, meaning if you want to use Wi-Fi on this motherboard, I recommend you pick up an Intel Wi-Fi 6 kit, AX200. I'll show you how to install that when we eventually get to installing the graphics card, but it's just like installing a graphics card into this PC if you want to use Wi-Fi. You don't have to. The fastest connection you can get in a gaming PC is through an Ethernet connection to your router, but I understand that not everyone is located right next to the router, so that's when you use Wi-Fi. So to install our RAM, you're going to want to open up slots A2 and B2 on the motherboard. And if you want to see what those are labeled, you can see a little writing here on the motherboard that shows you which slots to open up. You always want to open up these two slots if you're installing 2 sticks of RAM. The inserts here for the DDR4 RAM are different sizes. This will only go in one way, so you really can't mess this up. So take this, make sure to press it in all the way so you can hear an audible click like that. And then do it again for a second stick of RAM like this here in the other slot like that. Then for M.2 SSD, grab your screwdriver, use a Phillips head 1 screw bit, or if you just have a Phillips head 1 screwdriver, you're gonna wanna use that. It's smaller than a regular Phillips head screwdriver because these screws here on the M.2 heatsink are a bit smaller than your regular screws that you find in a gaming PC. So take that off, go ahead and peel that off. Then take your SSD. There's a little notch here on the connector because there's a little insert here on the actual connection. Line the two up. This should go in one way. Then take your M.2 heatsink, kind of press it back on here, line it up as best as you can. And that should stick because we had some adhesive on the underside of the M.2 heatsink. Then use your Phillips head 1 screwdriver and just screw these back in. And this is what your motherboard, CPU, RAM, and SSD should look like once you're all finished. So now with everything installed onto the motherboard, let's go ahead and open up the PC case and move on to the next step. Which for this PC build, I have chosen the Cooler Master Q300L version 2. Emphasis on version 2. So this case currently retails for $60, comes with one pre-included PC case fan, and since this is version 2, we do get some nice updates, like onboard USB-C, better ventilation for more airflow, and overall a slightly more up-to-date design that kind of fits modern day PC standards since the original Q300L came out in like 2017. It's an ancient PC case. Anyways, here's all the screws that we'll need to install anything into this PC case. And the final thing I want you to do is to take your I/O shield from your motherboard box, take this, flip this around. There's going to be 2 sides to this I/O shield. We have a side with some pokey bits sticking out and a flat side. We want the flat side going outside of the PC case, where eventually we'll plug in everything into the motherboard. So go ahead and place your I/O shield into this slot here on the back side of the PC case where your motherboard is going to go. Make sure it's lined up in the right orientation, which you'll soon find out if it's in the right way or not. But you're going to want to press in each of these 4 corners into the PC case. You should hear a little click on each side. Like that. So in order to put the motherboard into the PC case, we need to make sure that all the standoffs here in the PC case line up with the holes on our motherboard. And fortunately, since it's a micro ATX PC case, all of the holes here on the motherboard are already covered off. So all we gotta do is just drop this in, line it up with the I/O shield. If you need a little bit of help, make sure it presses up against it and it should just rest right here. And then using these screws that you see here on screen, go ahead and start screwing in one of them onto one side of the motherboard, not all the way though. Once we get all these screws in individually, then we'll go ahead and tighten each of them individually in a crisscross formation to apply equal pressure on all sides of the motherboard. All right, and with this final screw, we're gonna go ahead and screw this in all the way, fully tighten it up. And then we're gonna go to an adjacent side of the motherboard, tighten this up all the way, go to the other corner of that, tighten this one up all the way. And now you can kind of see what I'm doing here. I'm tightening each of these now all the way, now that all the screws are in. That way we put equal pressure onto all sides of the motherboard. Okay, and with our motherboard installed, let's go ahead and install the power supply, which I've chosen the MSI Mag A550BN. So, this is a 550 watt, 80 plus bronze power supply. It is currently a C tier on the PSU tier list, which is perfectly fine for this kind of a budget of a build. Power supply cable is in here. So if you're wondering, yes, 550 watts is plenty for this build. We don't really need any more. I just want to make sure you're set off with a quality power supply rather than like one with more wattage that has maybe iffy quality control issues. But this MSI one should be pretty good. So to install the power supply, this is done a little bit differently. So if you're confused at all, please look at the manual, because I was confused at first, but then I saw what I needed to do, and now I know what to do. But once again, just like with the motherboard, we're gonna wanna use those same screws to install the power supply into the PC case, these thicker ones that came with the PC case. But to actually install the power supply, we need to first unscrew this internal bracket that'll hold the power supply, which you can access through the back side of the PC case right here. So unscrew these 4 screws. And as I said earlier, this internal bracket will come off, and our power supply, more or less, is going to line up with it like this. Now remember, the fan side is going to be facing down. So imagine we have the PC case like this. Our power supply is going to be seated like this inside the PC case, meaning we need to have the bracket like this. So I'm going to go ahead and kind of put this at an angle. I'm going to put in 1 screw so you can see how this kind of goes. So as you can see, we'll put some other screws right here, and another one right there. And now with this internal bracket on, let's go ahead and position this power supply fan side facing down, bring it in, press this up to the back side of the PC case, and just like how you unscrewed it, we're gonna wanna go ahead and now screw in that internal power supply bracket to the outside of the PC case. So make sure the threads are lined up with the 4 holes here on the Q300L. And there you go, we have all of the screws now for the Q300L. So this is mounted to the PC case. And while we're here, you see there's this whole jumble of PC cables. Let's go ahead and start storing this into the backside of the PC case. So now with our power supply officially installed and all cleaned up, all we have to worry about now on the backside of the PC case are our power supply cables, our front I/O cables, and our single fan cable before we plug in our graphics card and our optional Wi-Fi adapter. So let's go ahead and take care of that. So let's go ahead and take care of our 1 case fan that was included with the Q300L version 2. Once again, you're welcome to add more fans because this motherboard can support more case fans if you wanted. We're gonna plug this in right here where it says channel fan 1, right next to the case fan. This will only go in one way and it'll be taken care of like that. Of course, kind of take care of the cable later, but that's where it goes. So let's go ahead and take care of our front I/O cables, so like our power button, reset button, USBs, all that, starting with our USB 3.0 header. This is gonna go right here. There's a little notch here on the connector that's gonna line up with this insert on the actual connection. Put the 2 together, can't mess it up. And then right below that is our USB-C connector. Can't miss it. This will only go in one way. Click it in. And then here's our front panel header, and what's so cool is that all of the individual pins are all on a single connection. You don't have to worry about it. This is gonna go where it says front panel 1 on the motherboard, but if you say, for instance, chose a different PC case where you had all those individual pins, refer to the motherboard manual and that'll show you where to plug in each individual pin, like the power supply switch pin, reset switch pin, power LEDs, HDD LEDs, should be straightforward. And then here on the far left of the motherboard should be where the HD audio connector is. It'll only go in one way. You will not mess this up, I promise, like that. So here's our CPU power connector. This will go onto the top left of the motherboard. So you can see there's a little notch right here on the connector that's gonna line up with, or I guess a latch that's gonna line up with this notch. This will only go in one way. You really can't mess this up. Easy. Here is our motherboard power connector, this big guy. Once again, we have a latch right here that's gonna line up with this notch on the connection, meaning it'll only go in one way. You can't mess this up. Make sure it's fully inserted. Bring this cable back, easy. And then finally, here is our PCIe power cable that'll eventually plug into our ARC graphics card, which let's finally cover now. Okay, so don't worry, we'll get to the graphics card. That's the best part of the build. Just wait for a moment, because first, if you want, we're going to install our optional Wi-Fi card, which is gonna go right here where it says M.2 Wi-Fi. We probably wanna take care of that before we plug in the graphics card. Otherwise, we won't be able to access it. So take this out, and let's go ahead and install this first. So in order to do that, take your Phillips head screwdriver, go ahead and unscrew the little PCI cover right here. See if we can take that out. There we go. And now let's go ahead and see where the graphics card is going to go. It's going to go here on this topmost slot, meaning we need to break off 2 of these for the graphics card. There we go. And then we're going to need 1 more for our M.2 Wi-Fi card. So let's break off a 3rd or a 4th one. You know, I'm gonna probably go for the bottom one, so that way we give it more space to the graphics card. So go ahead and insert in the M.2 Wi-Fi card. And then using the same screws that we used for the motherboard and the power supply, and eventually the graphics card, let's go ahead and screw in the PCI cover for the M.2 Wi-Fi card. And then for this guy right here, we're gonna wanna plug this in like that. However, as you can see, this thing kind of just wants to hang out because there's this thread we need to eventually screw something into. And for that, pull out your motherboard box and you're going to grab one of these small screws. This is what we use to help bolt down that M.2 Wi-Fi card onto the motherboard. And this is also Phillips Head 1. Let's go ahead and take this, screw it in, and there you go. So now I want you to go ahead and screw on the antennas for the M.2 Wi-Fi card. And just so I point this out so you guys are aware, since I know you guys are probably gonna run into this, I went ahead and threaded all of the cables from this M.2 Wi-Fi card right here with the same hole where the HD audio connector cable is. So I kind of put those behind so that way we have a clean room and slates for eventually our graphics card, which let's take care of now. For the graphics card, I'm going with the Intel Arc A750. This is the best value graphics card you can buy for $200, and it is seriously worth checking out, especially in the year 2023. I believe as I'm filming this video, you can pick one of these up for $200, which is an insane deal, and you won't find any better value in a GPU unless you want to spend around $300 or $500. This doesn't just have 8 gigabytes of VRAM, but it's 8 gigabytes of VRAM that has a 256-bit memory bus, the same as an RTX 3070, so the memory is high quality and pretty fast. Supports ray tracing, supports the AV1 codec if you want to do any sort of game streaming or game recording at the highest quality but at lower file sizes than say NVIDIA Shadowplay or AMD Relive. And just about the only drawback to this graphics card is that it does consume a bit more wattage than other graphics cards in its price range, but in my opinion, at $200, you should be focusing on performance, because really the amount of heat this will produce is not going to be as egregious as say an RTX 4090 or Radeon RX 7900 XTX. At this price point, all we care about is performance and user end experience, and that's where this Arc graphics card will do very well in. Just about the only negative thing I can say about this graphics card is that right now it doesn't run Starfield super well, but that's about the only drawback. So to install this, it is pretty simple. We already removed the 2 PCI cover slots for the Arc A750. To put it into this topmost slot, make sure to press this little tab back, bring it in, line it up with the topmost slot. Once you think it's gonna go in, give it a firm press and you should hear an audible click, like that. Go ahead and put on the PCI cover first. So unscrew all those screws we just had for the M.2 Wi-Fi card, then screw these in. There we go, like that. And then let's get the A750 right here, and then get this final screw, put it right here in the back to keep this thing pinned down. Easy. And if you remember earlier, now let's go ahead and plug in those PCIe power cables for our Arc A750. So go ahead and plug in one 8-pin power connector right here, and then right next to it, plug in a 6-pin power connector, and you are done. So finally, let's go ahead and boot up this computer for the first time and install Windows. All right, so let's go ahead and do our pre-boot checklist. So of course, plug in your keyboard, your mouse, have your monitor ready, have a power cable to your monitor. That should be pretty self-explanatory. And then for our display cable, it could be either HDMI or DisplayPort. Make sure to plug this into the graphics card, not the motherboard. And of course, plug the other end into the monitor. A lot of people mess that up. Don't be one of them. Then of course, don't forget to use your power cable that you got from the power supply box. Plug this into a wall outlet and then plug in the other end into the power supply. And once you have all of that set up, go ahead and flip the switch on the back of the power supply from the circle or the 0 to the 1. So now it is primed and ready to boot if we press the power button. And the last thing we're gonna do is we're gonna grab our USB flash drive here and plug this anywhere into the PC case. So I'll go ahead and plug this on the front. That is our Windows bootable media device, and that is what's gonna allow us to install Windows 11 onto this gaming PC. And once again, if you don't know how to create one of those, I have a tutorial linked in the description and as a card on screen that you can follow, and setting one up on a USB flash drive is easy and free. So I'm not gonna wait any longer. Let's press the power button and let's wait and see what happens. We should see a little circle right here eventually. If for any reason your PC doesn't initially boot up, just make sure that all of your connections onto the motherboard are really in there. So like all of your power supply cables and your RAM especially, make sure they're all the way in. You may even have to unplug and then replug some connections back in just to make sure that they're reestablished to the motherboard. That's what we had to do real quick with the RAM. We had to take it out and put it back in, and now our PC is successfully booted, and let's install Windows. All right, let's go ahead and run this. So hit next, install now. Here you can enter your Windows product key if you have one. If you don't, you can just proceed, totally fine. So there's Windows 11 Home, we'll just choose that. Agree, next, custom, there's our 1 TB drive, next, done. All right, let's go ahead and now set up Windows. So choose your country, choose your keyboard. If you want a second keyboard, you can choose that. Now here's where you're gonna go ahead and connect to your internet connection. Once again, if you didn't choose a Wi-Fi card, you're gonna wanna have an Ethernet cable plugged in from your motherboard to your router for a wired Ethernet connection. You're welcome to name your PC, I don't care, so I'll skip it for now. Now here's where we're gonna go ahead and sign into your preferred Microsoft account that you're gonna associate with your Windows login. So if you have an old like Xbox Hotmail account, you're welcome to use that. Or if you have one from a previous PC, you're welcome to use that as well. Choose whichever one will be most convenient for you. If you're given this, just hit view more options, set up as a new device, hit next, and then go ahead and create your PIN. This is your password that you'll use to sign into this computer every time you boot it up. And then from here on out are just a bunch of privacy and optional things you can opt into. I just turn all of them off, or if there are any like programs or promotions, I just skip them or decline them because I don't need them. And with that, let's go ahead and show you how to install graphics card drivers onto this PC along with chipset drivers. All right, let's go ahead and use this auto driver installer from ASRock. This is gonna help set up all of the chipset drivers and utilities for our motherboard in an all-in-one software. It'll be really convenient and easy. And while that's running, let's go ahead and open up Microsoft Edge, and let's go ahead and type in Intel Arc A750 drivers into Google. Click on the topmost link. Let's go ahead and download the HWQL certified drivers. Click on the big download link, and we'll let this open up in a sec. Here are auto driver installs for our chipset applications, or I guess our chipset drivers. Update, yes. And let's let this run, and just note your computer may automatically restart. So just note that if you're also installing graphics card drivers. So I think we should let this run first, then let the PC reboot, and then install this. Okay, as you can see, the auto driver has done its thing. Go ahead and finish out with that. And now let's go ahead and install those Intel Arc drivers. So let's go ahead and open up that file we just downloaded. Hit yes, there you go. Let's go ahead and begin installation. I agree, accept, start, and let's go ahead and let that run. And once this finishes, we're gonna do 2 more things. So the graphics card drivers have finished installing, but before we do that and we enter the BIOS and check on one more thing, just for this system, I recommend installing a BIOS update. So I checked, this motherboard came with version 9.03, and I do recommend getting the latest version, not only for more performance, but for this motherboard specifically, you can get better temperatures on the VRMs when you throw in a higher wattage CPU. So it's just something nice to have, and I'll quickly show you how to install a BIOS update on this motherboard. It is really not that bad. You just take your file, extract it to a USB drive, like right here, extract. And if you're wondering, the link for this was found on the product page for the motherboard, which I also found on Google. So now with that done, let's go ahead and reboot. And then to enter the BIOS, we're going to want to click, or I guess spam the delete key as soon as the brand screen comes up for the motherboard. All right, go ahead and press the delete key. There we go. We're going to enter the BIOS now. So there's a few things I want to do. First, here on the XMP profile, click on this, and now we can load up the profile 1 for our RAM. That way it runs at its full advertised speed for maximum performance. Then the next thing we're gonna do is we're gonna click on advanced mode, go here to advanced, go here to chipset configuration, and as we can see, Above 4G decoding is enabled. We do want that because that's going to allow for maximum performance on our ARC A750, also known as resizable bar. So that is good. And then the final thing is I want you to go ahead and update the BIOS. So after downloading that file and extracting it to a USB drive, preferably one that isn't your Windows bootable media device, we'll click here on Instant Flash, hit yes. There is our file from our USB flash drive. Let's go ahead and hit yes. Let this thing run, let it reboot. Don't touch your computer, don't turn it off at all. Let it do its thing, otherwise you'll corrupt the motherboard. So let this do its own thing, and once this finishes, then we can go ahead and get to gaming. Okay, we are here on the new Forza Motorsport to see how the performance is on this $600 gaming PC. We've got a lot of cars. The rain is coming down. Yeah, I mean, just about everything that can go wrong will go wrong. Woo! Just snuck through that. Yeah, I mean, I didn't ask for the rain to show up, but, you know, here we are. Oh! They are in the gravel trap. I'm gonna go around the outside. Beautiful. Okay, now before I get carried away, let me go and show you guys the graphics settings real quick, because we got the game running at high settings, 1080p, with AMD FSR set to quality, and just because I'm going to show you guys regardless. And here for driving assists, I've got everything off, because I'm a baller like that. I don't need assists. Anyways, this game literally came out like 2 days ago, so in no way is this fully optimized yet for Intel Arc and this gaming PC, but it's actually running regardless, and this is with the rain and on a full 24-player race. Oh, we went off right there. There's some of the reflections right there. The game could look better, but I'm just surprised it's getting above 60 FPS with all of this going on. Oh my god, I need to stop touching cars. Right, we're in 9th place. We're on lap 1. Let's try to make our way up the field in the wet. Starting with good moves like that. Everyone is driving so cautiously in the wet right now, and I'm giving no caution to it. In fact, I think we're gonna send one. Never mind, we're not gonna send one. But we are gonna turn our car, point it in the direction of this car. There we go. Our car just has a little more grip than everyone else. But man, we are driving at a snail's pace. Did I mention I have all assists turned off? Have I said how much of a baller I am at this game? We got 2 more laps left. We got plenty of time to catch these guys. In fact, we're catching them rapidly right now. Oh, look at that dynamic weather. It's nighttime now. We can't make a move yet. We are right on the tail of this BMW, though. Can't we make a move? Can we make a lunge? It's AI, so it's probably going to let us through. Oh, textbook pass right there. All we have in front of us is this Alpine, who goes wide. Is he gonna leave me the space? Nah, we're gonna make this a little interesting. Can we go around the outside? Okay. No penalty, right? Yep. Well, I'm gonna be real with you guys. That's about it I gotta show. Let's move on to the next game. I'm gonna go ahead and win. Here's Starfield. And yes, I did say Starfield. I think due to a recent driver update and game update, now this game is at least somewhat playable on Intel Arc, and I've got the game right now, Neon, running at, let's check out the graphics settings, 1080p, mixed between medium and low settings with FSR2 turned on. Render resolution is set to 100 though, and FPS meter is on the top left. We're gonna check out the stash for something before we set up this exchange or meeting of sorts here, Neon. Right, let's go ahead and go through here, follow what the blue sign says. Okay, as far as the frame rate goes, it could be a little bit better, but honestly, I'm putting the blame on the game more so because Intel, for some reason, has not done the best for collaborating with Bethesda and optimizing this game for Intel Arc graphics cards. Let's go ahead and click this lock. Now, I actually just figured out how to do this. So what we want to do is pick the right slot. And hey, we're in. All right, what's in here? Right, reading, great. This just got hot. All right, I think we're gonna go ahead and unlock this door to the VIP room or whatever. And I think that'll be it for the performance of Starfield. He definitely runs better than what I did at launch, but I think there's still some more optimization that come along the way. So if I were you, and you wanted to run Starfield immediately on this PC, I'd swap out the ARC A750 for like an RX 6600. But who knows, maybe in a month, this game will be running pretty smoothly on ARC, hopefully. There's the VIP room. We gotta talk this guy down, no? Now the frame rate's really good. Okay, one more time, just for you guys. We want this one. All right, what do we got? You guys won't see the exciting conclusion to this little story of mine, but here's the next game. And to finish things out, let's go ahead and run Counter-Strike 2, which just came out. And before I get absolutely battered, here's video. 1920 by 1080. We have the game running at medium to high settings, 4x MSAA. We don't have Fidelity FX enabled right now. And yeah, let's go ahead and play some deathmatch in Dust 2. Oh yeah, and since this game doesn't support in-game overlays, that really nice FPS meter in the top left, we're just gonna use the built-in Steam FPS counter, which my editor is gonna blow up for you guys so you can better see it. But look at that frame rate. And remember, we're playing the game at 1080p, and this just came out last month. Woo! Game's running smooth, 150 FPS. That was supposed to be mine. Oh, that was a nice shot. Oh, hey. I got cornered. I got some good kills while I was there. Frame rate is smooth. Oh. Oh! Your boys still got it. Honestly, I can't tell the difference between this and CSGO. As a casual who casually plays this game, it looks better, but like I know the smokes really improved, and there's a whole lot of like interpolation and tick rate stuff that's of talking lately. Game looks good, game runs good. Do I need to say any more? All right, we'll get one more kill and no! Show yourself. You took my kill. Oh, shoot. Nope, we got, all right, we're good. Let's finish out the video. Okay, let's go ahead and talk about this $600 gaming PC. So performance-wise, I'm actually a little bit surprised because I've done many playthroughs with the ARC A750 previously in the past, and it's done its fair share of games at 1440p. If you were to talk about the benchmarks I just did, Forza Horizon 5 would run at 1440p with ease on the ARC A750 and even with an i3 processor paired with it. But with the new Forza Motorsport, 1080p is probably the recommended resolution, but keep in mind that game literally came out one day ago. So that's launch day performance on an Intel Arc graphics card, and I'm actually quite happy to see at least that it runs decently, and not like how Starfield ran at launch on Intel Arc cards, which speaking of, I'm glad to see that now Starfield is actually kind of playable on ARC, and now with the reports of Intel XeSS, which is their version of DLSS, coming on the way to Starfield, I think it's safe to say that Starfield will be playable on Intel Arc graphics cards very soon. And what I was also surprised about was we had to run CS2 at 1080p to get around 144 frames per second, which is still where a lot of you are probably going to be building this PC will end up be playing that game at that resolution, but still on CSGO, you could run that game at 1440p on the ARC graphics card with no problem at all. So for the moment, I think this $600 gaming PC, if you want to play anything recent, is a 1080p gaming PC. But with more driver updates and more game updates from recently released titles, I think this could do a fair bit of 1440p gaming. And that isn't to mention that there's already plenty of games that'll run at 1440p on this PC, like Valorant, Grand Theft Auto 5, Apex Legends, even Fortnite will run at 1440p on this PC. It's just if you want to run anything that just came out, you're probably gonna have to run it at 1080p. Now aesthetically, I think this computer actually works really well at $600. I know the fact that this doesn't have a PSU shroud could be off-putting, but the power supply choice, that MSI Mag power supply, looks so clean along with the rest of this build that it actually works really well. And the fact that this isn't a modular power supply, I think works in its favor as well, because all the cables just tuck right into the back of the PC case, and there's actually a pretty decent amount of space on the backside panel here to store all of your cables. So surprisingly, The new Q300L V2 case kinda works. Not to mention, the side panel got upgraded to a tempered glass side panel and not an acrylic glass, so that's more quality for you. Features onboard USB-C, and I mean, I guess you could say with the PSU shroud, this would be a really great case, but at $60, I'm not complaining. I think this is a really neat case. Looking at it, you can fit a radiator here on the top. You could fit one here on the front, but of course that depends on how long your graphics card is. And you've got a lot of room right here to work with. It's a very open-ended PC case, so I'm comfortable recommending the Q300L now in this version 2 format. And that's just about it. Right now, it's a really great time to build a PC because prices are dropping for pretty much every category when it comes to building a gaming PC. And once again, links to every single PC part I use to make this build guide possible can be found in the description below if you want to build this PC yourself or just want to check out anything. So there you have it. That is it for this video. Thank you so much for watching. And this is the Scatterable channel, signing out.